Hi everyone, my name's Paul Howard. I'm the Technical Director and President of the PMBIA Association, and welcome to this teaching theory video. So today we're going to take a look at the IACRCV Skill Development Model. This is a teaching model that was developed by the Coaches Association of Canada, and we think it's a great teaching model, and it's been fantastic to see its impact on instructors that we've trained over the years. And particularly, it's a great tool for more experienced instructors to help refine their teaching skills and adapt to their students. So because of that reason, we typically look at the skill development model on the level 2 courses. So let's take a look at it. You might be wondering why I'm sitting in front of a piano. The great thing about this model is that it really is independent of sport. It relates to any skill that you're learning. It could be playing the piano, learning to cook, playing golf, learning another language, and that's what's fantastic about it. And that's something we're really big on in PMBIA, is understanding teaching skills in its own right, and how you can develop your teaching skills with models such as this. So the IACRCV, that's a bit of a tongue twister there, but it stands for Initiation, Acquisition, Consolidation, Refinement, and Create Variation. And there are essentially 5 different stages that students go through when they're learning new skills. And what we're going to look at using the piano is basically give you an example of each of those stages, how it might look, and based on that description, what might be some different teaching considerations the coach or the instructor can have to better adapt to their student who might be in that particular stage of their skill development. So let's dig in. The first stage is the initiation stage, and it's pretty much, I like the phrase blank slate. It's the first time a student is trying something. I have a piece of music here, and when you play the piano, you have a right hand and a left hand. So different music, different musical notes, and I'm going to show you how learning to play the right and left hand might sort of look as we go through this skill development model. Like I said, let's start with the initiation phase. So this is what it might look like if the student never seen this music before, never played it before, but they can obviously read music. So one of the characterizations of this stage is the student really has to think about performing the particular skill. In this case, it's playing a piece of music. So teaching considerations for this stage are, usually the information is quite clear. It's understanding the information isn't necessarily the issue. It's just they need mileage. They need repetition with the information they have, so they can start to remember what it is they're trying to do, and they can start to try and do the skill more organically and in a more automatic way. So teaching considerations for this stage are: be careful of adding more information. At this point, if I add anything else with the music, like the beat or the timing or how quick or fast to play it, I'm not even there yet. I'm just learning the basic notes. So any other information I might get at this point isn't going to help me. And the reason I highlight that is in the initiation phase. It's very tempting when you see a student struggling to add more information, but it's not actually going to help. Let them build gradually and learn the basic steps before we add. So the other side to that with the teaching consideration is don't expect perfection. I'm not expecting for it to sound beautiful or it to be seamless. And because I'm not expecting that, if I was teaching this, or if I was teaching a student this, then that would feed into my feedback of their performance. Cool. So let's move on to the second stage, acquisition stage. So we still have minimal mileage with the acquisition stage, but we're beginning to understand the goal. Like, what is it I'm trying to achieve? I might have felt some things that sounded like the right piece of music. I still need to think to perform, but the pieces are starting to come together. It's just not consistent yet. And I think that's a great way of characterizing the acquisition phase. It's sometimes there and it's sometimes not. So it might sound like this. So moments there where it starts to sound quite good, moments there where there's pauses, there's stops. So inconsistency is a great sort of word, like I said, to characterize the acquisition phase. So when you're teaching someone in this phase, it's important to recognize that similar to the initiation phase, there's quite a lot of similarities between these first two in terms of how we adapt our teaching, but we're not looking for perfection. We're not trying to add too much more information. We're just trying to allow a safe environment to essentially build mileage and get that repetition going. A good thing to do in the acquisition phase is maybe just check in and ensure they have understanding for correct learning. So it might be a good stage to not necessarily add information, but ask the student, hey, do you have any questions? Is there anything you'd like me to review? Would you like another demonstration? If it's a piano, you could play it, but we're mountain bikers, so it might require another demonstration at that point. And that way we're not adding new information, we're maybe just reviewing the information we've discussed so far. And again, in that acquisition stage, it's very tempting just to keep adding more info, but often the student just needs to reconfirm some things and that they've already been told. And again, more mileage. Consolidation phase, so this is our third phase. Here, things start to be consistent, especially in easy conditions. So maybe if I'm at home on the piano, no one's watching me, I'm not filming myself, I might start to play this piece quite consistently. On a bike, if the trail's quite easy, I might be able to do that front wheel lift quite consistently. But as soon as things get more challenging, I've got 200 people watching me play the piano, or I'm on a black trail instead of a blue trail, I might not be as consistent as I'd like to be in performing that skill. So consolidation, consistency under easy conditions. What we need to do is just safely and gently start to challenge them to build stronger and more consistent movement patterns. And at this stage, this is where we can perhaps ask a little more from the students, because that's how we find the little things that they're missing to keep building and refining their performance. So consolidation might look or sound something like that. So starts to sound like a cohesive piece of music there, maybe a little mistake here or there, but essentially I think of the consolidation phase is, from a music point of view, you're playing the notes that are in front of you. And because I play the piano and ride bikes, I always link these two together. And for biking, to me, it's I've got the 3 or 4 bullet points in my head of what I need to be doing, and I'm consistently executing most of those bullet points. Yeah, cool. So teaching considerations here, we can start to be a little bit more picky and demanding with feedback, but still pretty easygoing, and maybe varying the environment. So easier conditions, slightly harder conditions, just to kind of challenge the skill, but gradually. Okay, so let's move on to the refinement stage. The 4th phase, consistent performance, autonomous movements. That's where I like to sort of branch out with refinement and create variation, these final 2 phases. What we see on a bike is when someone rides by and you can really tell they're doing the technique or the skill without thinking about it. It's autonomous. And as soon as I recognize that in my students, chances are they're in that refinement or create variation stage. And straight away I recognize that, I can adapt my teaching accordingly. But if I don't recognize what phase my student is in, how can I adapt my teaching to help them out? So the refinement stage could look something like this. So now it sounds good. It's I don't really have to think about it too much. I don't have to read the music all the time. And so my feedback now to improve something that's refined, the definition of refinement really in our mind is I need to find small things. So if I'm going to find small things, I need to be more critical with my feedback. So from the level 2 PMBIA course and for more advanced coaching, this is where if you have a student in the consolidation, but definitely in the refinement, create variation phase, if we don't have that eye to see the small things, the details in their writing that could be improved, we're not going to be able to help them as effectively as we can. So these 2 phases, as far as teaching considerations go, refinement and create variation, they really rely on detailed analysis, so we can find those small pieces to ask more of them and get them to continue to improve. So being more picky with the feedback, having higher expectations, that's a key teaching consideration at this phase. And like I said, that relies on our analysis skills. And the goal here too is to continue to challenge their technique. And that doesn't always mean just harder terrain or faster speeds. We see that can often be quite a common tool that instructors use is, let's go faster, let's ride a harder trail, let's hit a bigger jump. A lot of the time the refinement phase has to do with the skill, and we can refine a skill by trying it slower or trying it 5 times in a row or 6 times in a row, or just asking them to do it better, to do it more cleanly. If you're leaning the bike through the corner, can you start the lean a little earlier? And so refinement is really finding small pieces, and the skill of timing coordination can be a great refinement tool for that. Try it faster, try it slower, try it earlier, try it later, try it more suddenly or more gradually. And all of a sudden, through timing coordination, we can often challenge the skill without necessarily increasing the risk, just by saying hit a bigger jump. So for an example, that's the refinement stage. Let's move on to the final one, create variation. The key here is consistent in any situation, so very few mistakes. It's completely autonomous, and the writer is starting to add their own elements to it. So how that relates to the piano is essentially the create variation stage is I can just get rid of that, and now I'm going to play my version of that music. So that refinement stage, that prior stage before, was very much I'm playing what I'm being told to play from the music. Create variation stage, I don't need music. It's my interpretation of what that piece was. And that's how I relate to biking. And it's a great way for instructors to sort of look at the create variation stage. The writer isn't necessarily doing something that hasn't been done before, but they're doing it when they want. They're leaning the bike as late as they want, or as early as they want, or they're pressing into a ramp as hard or as softly as they want to create the trajectory in the air that they want. So a lot of the create variation stage can be defined as rider choice versus the terrain dictating things. So now the rider is really starting to play and choose and have a lot of variety in how they do things. When I start to see a lot of variety, a lot of autonomous riding, different line choices, different trajectories off jumps, different techniques when they're climbing, sitting, standing, that's when it's a sign that it's at the create variation stage. So at this point, it's really, for a teaching consideration, it's very important to allow that freedom for the rider to explore different ideas and concepts, but to do it safely. And this is where, as a rider yourself, if you're more creative, you can then help another rider become creative. So on the level 2 course, one of our goals is to really encourage riders to start playing on the bike, not just to improve your own riding, but down the road as a coach, you're going to be in a much better situation to help develop the skills further of someone in that refinement or that create variation stage. So it might sound something like this. I can't promise anything. We'll see how it goes. So create variation stage. So this is kind of my spin on that piece of music. So whoever wrote that piece of music, I could probably find out for you, but I can't remember right now. They might have heard that and thought, that wasn't the piece of music I wrote. That's not the standard version of the music that I put into that book. And that's fine, because right now for me, I know that piece of music and now I'm just playing it how it feels good to me and the sounds that I want to make. So I'm personalizing the information through my own style and preferences, and that can be applied to, like I said, mountain biking, cooking, playing golf, learning a language. So I hope that's helped. It's just a different way of looking at the IACRCV Skill Development Model to get you thinking about recognizing these different stages of skill development in a student, and then once we've recognized what stage they're in, we can then have a better chance to adapt our teaching, make some small refinements or small changes to our teaching that can really have a positive impact in our students' learning outcomes. And that's the definition for you guys as instructors, is how can you continue to develop, push, refine your own teaching, just like your writing? What are some of the small things you can do to just polish and refine your delivery of your feedback, your analysis, your explanations, your lesson planning? And the IACRCV Skill Development Model is a great tool to bring more awareness to your teaching, so you can do exactly that, find some things to improve and refine. So dig into the reference guide materials and the course booklets. I hope you found this teaching theory video useful, and we look forward to seeing you on the course soon. Thank you.